Season 2, Episode 23. Everyone at Papaia's. The guinea pig. 3 scientists. Papaia, Banani, Ravioli, and their assistant Igor, who were supposed to attend the famous dark matter conference, miss their flight and end up on the other side of the world. Arriving at the wrong airport, they book a hotel for the night, but it's not exactly what they expected, meaning it's awful. To beat the heat, Banani figures out how to turn on the air conditioner, but it puffs out in an explosion of freezing black soot, making the room unlivable. We're in Ravioli's room. Banani and Ravioli are realizing that both Banani's and Ravioli's rooms are now unusable. Ravioli, look at this disaster you made in my room. Now it's frozen and covered in dust. How am I supposed to sleep in here? Banani, my room is unlivable too. I was hoping that, at least in yours, we could get the air conditioning to work. Ravioli, oh, so you decided to use me as a guinea pig for your experiments? Banani, I thought you were hot too. Ravioli, well, if you had at least knocked before barging in with your key, I would have told you I was sleeping just fine. Banani, how could you have told me if you were sleeping? Ravioli, never mind, I have an idea. Let's all go to Papaia's room. Banani, what a great idea. Papaia will surely be happy to share his room with us. Maybe the air conditioning works properly there. Ravioli, oh no. This time you'll have to keep your curiosity to yourself, Banani. Upon hearing the plan, Igor commented, oh sure, Papaia must have been thrilled to host the legendary Deviated Septum Band, featuring Ravioli and Banani, the 2-star trombonists, in an exclusive concert of stadium volume snoring. Papaia's dream. 3 scientists, Papaia, Banani, Ravioli, and their assistant Igor, who were supposed to attend the famous dark matter conference, missed their flight and ended up on the other side of the world. Arriving at the wrong airport, they book a hotel for the night, but it's not exactly what they expected, meaning it's awful. We're in Papaia's room. Meanwhile, Papaia is fast asleep, dreaming that he is Captain Kirk. We are inside Papaia's dream. On the bridge of the starship Pepper Price, we find Captain Papaia, First Officer Banani, Chief Engineer Ravioli, and the ship's doctor, Dr. Igor. Papirk, in a commanding voice, First Officer Bananok, report. Bananok salutes theatrically. Bananok here, Captain. All set for the mission. Raviolot, panting, running between control panels at the back of the room. Captain, the warp engine is losing power. We need to do something and fast. Papirk, Raviolot, there's no time to waste. Increase speed. Bananok, prepare for a 180-degree turn. Meanwhile, Dr. McIlroy is dabbing a bump on the captain's forehead. McIlroy, Captain, your vital signs are stable, but I should keep you under observation in the medical bay. That was quite a headbutt. Papirk, there's no time for observation, McIlroy. We're in the middle of an emergency. McIlroy, I understand, Captain, but you might have a concussion. It's not safe to stay on the bridge in this condition. Bananik, McIlroy, don't insist. You know the captain is hard-headed. McIlroy, certainly not harder than that porthole. Suddenly, the large screen on the bridge lights up, showing a distorted image. A dangerous alien appears, staring sternly. The infamous Klingon clerk, menacingly. You have violated the security of Sunflower Space. Before you can proceed, you must show your reservation. Papirk, confused. Reservation? We sent it through the Federation app. Klingon clerk, with an evil grin. What app? Klingons do not answer to the Federation. I want your reservation within 3 hours here on my plywood desk, or I will destroy your ship. The image on the screen disappears, returning to the shift system displays. Bananok. Now what? We'll never get that reservation in 3 hours. It's a complicated diplomatic process. Papirk, Engineer Raviolot. What do you think? Is there a way to bypass Sunflower Space? Raviolot, the engines are a mess, and without going through Sunflower Space, we won't get far. McIlroy. Excuse me, have you seen the Bench Galaxy? It's right nearby. We could spend the night there while waiting for assistance. Banana. Captain, bad news. The Klingons got my arm stuck in the communication system again. Help me. Raviolot. I got this. There you go. Banana. Thanks, engineer, but how did you do it? Raviolot. Klingons are so stingy that all their electromagnetic traps use the same frequency. After hearing about the dream, Igor commented, "Strange. I can't quite figure out why I like this McKiggeroy so much, and more importantly, why he reminds me of someone." Papaya's things. 3 scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor, are supposed to attend the famous dark matter conference. However, they board the wrong flight and end up on the other side of the world. After landing at the wrong airport, they book a hotel for the night, but it's not quite what they expected, meaning it's awful. Since Banani and Ravioli's rooms are unlivable, they all decide to stay in Papaya's room. "We are in Papaya's room." The two enter the room and call out to him, but Papaya, deep in sleep, doesn't wake up. Ravioli decides to brush his teeth before going to bed. Ravioli, "Oh no, I left my toothpaste in my room. I'll use Papaya's." Ravioli uses Papaya's toothpaste. Ravioli, "Look, Banani, Papaya's toothpaste is almost empty, but I think I can squeeze out one last dose." Banani, "Maybe you should leave it for Papaya." Ravioli, "I'm sure Papaya has a new tube in his suitcase. You know what? I'll just use it." Banani, rummaging through Papaya's suitcase, "I don't think so, Ravioli. I just opened it to find a pair of socks for myself." Apparently, Papaya is a minimalist. The ones I borrowed were the only pair he had. Ravioli, "I don't think Papaya will mind if I eat these delicious cookies hidden here in his laptop case." Banani, "Hey, Ravioli, think about it. You just brushed your teeth." Ravioli, "That's true, but the damage is done. Now I'll have to use his mouthwash. There's just one last drop left." Isn't it weird that someone travels with a flask of mouthwash in the secret pocket of their coat? Banani, "I find it weird that Papaya brought a coat in this season." Later, Igor commented, "After discovering the first 2 rules of the Sunflower Hotel, the room that is a sauna, and the shower that works with a small bottle of mineral water, when Papaya woke up, he would have discovered the 3rd rule, that the backpack had to be used as a pillow. Otherwise, there was a risk of finding it a little lighter." New Testament translations. 3 scientists, Papaya, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor, are supposed to attend the famous dark matter conference. However, they board the wrong flight and end up on the other side of the world. After landing at the wrong airport, they book a hotel for the night, but it's not quite what they expected, meaning it's awful. Inside Papaya's room. After fleeing their own rooms, Banani and Ravioli decide to go to Papaya's. Ravioli, "Have you made any progress with reading the study?" Banani, "Yes, I was reading that the New Testament has been passed down to us accurately." Ravioli, "Well, what we read today is in our language, but the original versions were in ancient Greek." Banani, "Oh, right, I hadn't thought of that. But is that a problem?" Ravioli, "Not necessarily. Scholars compare thousands of ancient manuscripts to reconstruct the original text with great accuracy." Banani, "And are these manuscripts reliable?" Ravioli, "Yes. The New Testament is the ancient text with the highest number of copies and the shortest time gap from the original events. We have fragments dating back to the 2nd century and complete copies from the 4th century, such as the Codex Sinaiticus." Banani, "So can we be sure that what we read today is what was originally written?" Ravioli, "Exactly. Apart from minor variations like synonyms or transcription errors, the text has remained essentially the same." When Igor read the book, he commented, "Igor, the messes Banani makes today are the same ones he made when he was younger. In that sense, we can say that over the years, his idiocy has been transmitted accurately." The originals available. 3 scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor are supposed to attend the famous dark matter conference. However, they board the wrong flight and end up on the other side of the world. After landing at the wrong airport, they book a hotel for the night, but it's not quite what they expected, meaning it's awful. Inside Papaia's room. After fleeing their own rooms, Banani and Ravioli decide to go to Papaia's, where they start discussing the study Ravioli downloaded on the New Testament. Banani thinks for a moment. Banani. But there's another problem. The manuscripts we have date back to the 2nd century. How do we know the scribes didn't change the original manuscripts, which have been lost? Ravioli. Good question. But you have to consider that the original manuscripts were regarded as scripture and were carefully preserved in the apostolic churches. Some of them were destroyed during persecutions, but others remained available to scribes for centuries. Banani. Oh, right. I think I read something about this from one of the church fathers. Ravioli. Exactly. Irenaeus of Lyon in the 2nd century spoke about how the scriptures were publicly read in churches, which means the copies had to be faithful to the originals. Banani. So if someone had tried to change something, people would have noticed? Ravioli. Exactly. The churches had copies spread across different regions, and any modification would have been immediately evident when comparing the texts. That's why scholars today analyze textual variants and confirm that the essential content of the New Testament has remained unchanged. Banani. I think it was Eusebius who wrote that some of the original manuscripts were still available in the apostolic churches. Ravioli. That's right. Eusebius of Caesarea in the 4th century mentioned that some churches still preserve the original manuscripts, or very ancient copies. This means that for centuries, scribes could compare their copies with older ones, reducing the risk of significant errors or alterations. Banani. So it's not like they were copying blindly? Ravioli. No, quite the opposite. The copying process was very meticulous, especially because these were sacred texts. Even though small errors or variations inevitably crept into individual manuscripts, comparing thousands of them allows us to reconstruct the original text with great precision. Igor then remarked, Igor, copying process? Listen to him. Ravioli is an expert on the subject, especially when it came to written exams at university. A true master at copying others with great precision. More conspiracies. 3 scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor, are supposed to attend the famous dark matter conference. However, they board the wrong flight and end up on the other side of the world. After landing at the wrong airport, they book a hotel for the night, but it's not quite what they expected, meaning it's awful. Inside Papaia's room. After fleeing their own rooms, Banani and Ravioli decide to go to Papaia's, where they start discussing the study Ravioli downloaded on the New Testament. Banani. Yeah, but what if they all agreed at one of those councils to change the text or add something? Ravioli. And how? If even in the 2nd century, the Eastern churches and the Church of Rome couldn't even agree on the date of Easter. Banani. Really? Ravioli. Absolutely. The controversy over the date of Easter, known as the Quartodeciman controversy, is a clear example of how difficult it was for early churches to reach an agreement on theological and liturgical matters. As early as the 2nd century, the Church of Rome and the churches of Asia Minor disagreed on the exact day to celebrate Easter. Some followed the Jewish calendar, while others preferred the following Sunday. Banani. So if they couldn't even agree on that, let alone changing the Gospels. Ravioli. Exactly. Any attempt to modify the text in a coordinated way would have been impossible considering the geographical spread of Christian communities and the existence of circulating copies. Any significant alteration would have been easily detected by comparing manuscripts distributed across various churches, many of which were independent from each other and only sporadically in contact. Banani. We would have found significantly different manuscripts in 2 separate traditions. Ravioli. Exactly. But what we actually see is that despite small transcription variations, the content of the manuscripts remains essentially the same everywhere. If there had been a massive rewriting, we should find two very different versions of the New Testament. But that's not the case. Banana. So the copies we have allow us to reconstruct the original text with certainty? Ravioli. Yes. Thanks to the large number of ancient manuscripts and their geographical spread, scholars can identify and correct transcription errors, reconstructing the original text with great accuracy. Ravioli. What do you think, Banani? Will we have to sleep in this hotel again tomorrow? Banani. This isn't a hotel, it's a dump. Later, Igor commented, Banani at that moment had fully grasped the essence of the Sunflower Hotel. If I had been there, I would have had nothing more to add. Season 2, Episode 24. Wake Up. Conclusions. 3 scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor, are supposed to attend the famous Dark Matter conference. However, they board the wrong flight and end up on the other side of the world. After arriving at the wrong airport, they book a hotel for the night. But it's not quite what they expected, meaning it's awful. Due to unforeseen circumstances, Banani and Ravioli decide to go to Papaia's room. Inside Papaia's room. After perhaps taking a bit too much advantage of Papaia's deep sleep, Ravioli and Banani start to feel tired themselves. Banani, I don't know about you, but I'm finally starting to feel sleepy. Ravioli, between one thing and another, it's gotten really late, and we definitely can't go back to those dusty, freezing rooms. Banani, you said it. You know what? I'd rather sleep here, on the floor, in Papaia's room. Saying that, the two lie down on the hard floor. Banani. Okay, so to summarize, the apostles wrote the Gospels between 10 and 40 years after Jesus' death, either themselves or through their close collaborators. These manuscripts have been passed down to us practically unchanged, as proven by the thousands of copies we have today. Ravioli. Exactly. And let's not forget the numerous quotes from the Church Fathers, which cover practically all the Gospels. Banani. Plus, we've seen that the disciples had no reason to lie about their testimony. Ravioli. Right. The evidence shows their sincere belief. Banani. But there's one last question. What if the disciples misunderstood Jesus' teachings? Like when he said he was the Son of God? Ravioli. Actually, it's the opposite. The Gospels show that the disciples didn't fully understand that Jesus was truly the Son of God until he himself explained it to them after the resurrection. Banani. Oh, right. The disciples were devout Jews expecting a powerful Messiah, a military king, not a humble preacher. Ravioli. Exactly. Even after seeing the miracles he performed, they considered him just a prophet, not the incarnation of God. So much so that when he was crucified, they were in shock, locking themselves in the upper room out of fear of the chief priests. Banani. But everything changed with his resurrection. Ravioli. And that brings us to a crossroads. With all the evidence in front of us, we have to decide whether to consider the Gospel's testimonies credible or not. What do you think, Banani? But Banani, now too exhausted, starts snoring loudly. Ravioli, equally drained, closes his eyes and quickly falls asleep. Igor's commentary. And the show begins. The grand performance of Banani and Ravioli's 2 nocturnal symphonies. If anyone has earplugs, now would be the time to use them. Igor's show. 3 scientists, Papaia, Banani, and Ravioli, and their assistant Igor, are supposed to attend the famous Dark Matter conference. However, they board the wrong flight and end up on the other side of the world. After arriving at the wrong airport, they book a hotel for the night. But it's not quite what they expected, meaning it's awful. Inside Igor's room. Meanwhile, Igor's in his room but can't fall asleep. Igor, I'll never get any sleep like this. Too much material for my next stand-up. I need to take notes or I'll forget some important details. Igor pulls a notebook out of his backpack. Igor, let's see. There's that joke about Papaya's paradox. Papaya's paradox, that's what I'll call it. It goes something like this. When Papaya says that traveling with him means there will be no surprises, it's a paradox. In fact, if there were no surprises during the trip, that would be a surprise. Come to think of it, I could write a philosophy book. I'd call it The Art of the Unexpected. Applied philosophy for clumsy geniuses and airports. Igor keeps thinking. Igor, here's another one. When you travel with Papaya, you could end up anywhere in the world, but there's only one place you'll never reach, your destination. That could be better. When you travel with Papaya, you could end up anywhere, except where you need to go. That might work better. Or maybe, traveling with Papaya is like rolling a die. You could land anywhere in the world, but never at your destination. No, maybe the other one was better. Papaya turns every trip into an adventure, far from where you're supposed to be. This one's short, but I can't tell if it's better or worse than the first. Let's see. The best part of traveling with Papaya? Every destination is a surprise, especially for him. Ah, yes, I think I'll keep this one. I just hope we make it home in time for my show next month.